A few days ago, someone on Reddit posted that they were nervous about the Principles of Marketing CLEP. They were wondering if the Modern States quizzes and final were an accurate representation of the real exam or if they were walking into a buzzsaw. Now, I hadn't taken the Modern States course myself, so I couldn't give them an honest answer. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I enrolled in the Modern States class, got my voucher, and took the CLEP myself, all within 12 hours, for science and for Reddit. Now, here's the thing. I'd already passed this exam 10 years ago. So this was a chance to see how the test had changed, compare Modern States to the real thing, and give you the most up-to-date advice possible. The good news is I passed with a 71, finished in 45 minutes, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know before you sit down for this exam. I'm Justin from Free-Clep-Prep. I've passed over 50 CLEPs and DSST exams, and this is everything you need to know about the Principles of Marketing CLEP. Now, if you're not familiar with Free-Clep-Prep, we offer completely free study guides for CLEP and DSST exams. We've got flashcards, full-length practice tests, and feedback from test takers who have used our material to pass. I wrote a lot of that marketing content. So when I walked into this exam, I wasn't just testing myself, I was testing whether our materials actually prepare you for the real thing. Okay, right out the gate, let's address the question that started this whole thing. That Redditor was worried that Modern States wasn't preparing them properly for the real exam. And honestly, I've talked about this before. I get why they felt that way. Modern States is an incredibly free resource. You can go through their entire Principle of Marketing course or just the quizzes and final, complete it, and get a voucher that covers your exam fee. That's real money saved, and I recommend doing that to everybody. In fact, I have an entire video up there that talks about Modern States and how great they are if you're unfamiliar with it. But in terms of actually preparing you for the real thing, the quizzes and the finals were lacking like some other ones that I've taken. The course itself isn't bad. It probably gets you about 50 to 75% of the way there if you watch the entire thing. The quizzes themselves, though, are way too easy, and I sympathize. Making good quizzes and good questions aren't easy. Now, many of the questions seem to only have one possible answer because they almost answer themselves. There was like 3 complete nonsense answers and then one, yeah, that could be it. That didn't match what I remembered of the marketing CLEP at all. Now, to be fair, my last exposure with this exam was like a decade ago, and things change. So maybe I was misremembering. But when I sat down for the real exam, I realized, my gut feeling was right. The Modern States finals are helpful reviewing concepts, but they're not a perfect mirror of what you'll see on test day. Not to blow our own horn here, but our practice tests at Free-Clep-Prep were a much closer match. So if you're using Modern States, and you absolutely should because more study is always a good thing, just know that you might want to supplement with additional practice that's closer to the real test format. And that's my advice for pretty much any time you're studying for an exam. Use multiple resources. Let's talk about what the exam actually feels like. The Principles of Marketing CLEP is 100 questions, and you've got 90 minutes. And here's my honest take on the difficulty. It's manageable. Very manageable. I finished in 45 minutes. Now, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because if you actually study, you're not going to be scrambling for time here, or at least I don't think you will. The questions are straightforward if you understand the core concepts. The format is mostly multiple choice, though I did have a few multi-select questions that ask you to check all that apply. And you'll see some questions that are pure definition, like, what is this term? Or scenario questions like, a company is about to do this and they're facing this situations. What's the correct answer about what they should do next? You'll even see some questions that require some basic math, which I'll get into in a minute. If you've passed other business CLEPs or even some of the social science exams, this one follows a similar pattern. No surprises, no gotchas, just solid preparation, meeting a fair test. Okay, point 3. This is what most of y'all came here for. What's actually on the exam? Now, I need to be careful here. CLEP has rules about sharing specific exam content, and I respect that. So I'm not going to tell you these exact questions were on the test. What I can tell you is which topics I was really glad I had studied. And if you focus your energy on those areas, you're going to walk in feeling confident. The fact sheet for this exam is on point, which is not always the case with CLEPs and DSSTs. Stuff like the marketing mix, product, price, place, promotion, the 4 Ps. You need to understand each one of those and how they interact and how companies can make decisions about them. This is foundational. If you don't know the marketing mix cold, you're going to struggle. Consumer decision making, how people decide what to buy, what stages do they go through, what influences them at each stage. Understand this process inside and out. Same goes with like business to business and business to consumer. Business-to-business marketing is different than business-to-consumer marketing. Know why it's different. Know how the buying process changes when you're selling to a company instead of just an individual. Branding is another one. Brand equity, brand positioning, brand extension. I had to think about that one for a second. These concepts came up constantly. Understand how companies build and manage their brands. Same thing goes with like CRMs and DSSs. DSSs. That's a tough one. Customer relationship management systems for CRM, and decision support systems. Acronyms are going to kill me. But you have to know what those are, what they do, and why marketers use them. Another one is market segmentation. If you don't know what that is, you need to read up on it. Demographic, geographic, psychographic, it's the emotional one, behavioral, like different targeting strategies between undifferentiated, differentiated, concentrated, micro-marketing. All of that. Know the differences and when you use each one. If you get these areas cold, you're covering a huge portion of what the exam is testing. Okay, so now let's talk about math, because I know some of you just got nervous, and I'm right there with you. I don't like math, but relax. Here's the truth. Just like the fact sheet shows you, I know how to go about calculating markup percentages, or figuring out a margin, or determining a break-even point. Basic stuff. If you can calculate what like 20% of something is, you can handle the math on this exam. It's not doing calculus, thank God. We're not doing complex formulas. You don't need a finance degree. Just make sure you understand the basic pricing and profitability calculations in your study guide. Practice a few times and you'll be fine. Don't let the fear of math psych you out on an otherwise very passable exams. I know how you feel if you don't like math, but it's nothing to worry about on this one. Final note, make sure your testing center or proctor gives you access to a pencil and paper, because there is no calculator on the exam. I was able to figure out most of the questions just by like working backwards. Like I'd look at the answers and in my head just be like, okay, does that make sense? First digit's fine. Yeah, that's probably good. But it's probably smarter just to write it down. All right, last bit of advice, and this is where I get to plug Free-Clep-Prep. If you want to pass the Principles of Marketing, here's what I would do. Step 1, come to Free-Clep-Prep and go through our Principles of Marketing study guide. It's free, it's comprehensive, and it's organized around exactly what the exam tests. Step 2, use our flashcards to drill the terminology. Marketing has a lot of specific terms, and you need to know them. Step 3, take our full-length practice test. It mimics the real thing in terms of format, and the difficulty is actually a little bit higher. And it's free. Step 4, go over to Modern States. Complete the quizzes and get your free voucher. That's free money. Don't leave it on the table. Spot check the videos for anything you feel weak on, but honestly, you shouldn't have any holes in your knowledge if you just went through all the topics on Free-Clep-Prep. I know I'm biased here. I built a lot of this stuff. But I'm also someone who just sat down and took this exam, and I can tell you with confidence, if you know our material, you've got excellent odds to pass this test. I finished in half the time with a decade of rust, and that's because the fundamentals were still there from building our study guides. That's how closely they align. So that's the Principles of Marketing CLEP. A Redditor was worried. I took the exam to find out the truth, and now you know exactly what to expect. If you're studying for this exam right now, you've got this. The test is fair, the content is learnable, and if you put in the work, you're going to walk out with 3 college credits, which ain't that bad at all. Now, if you're still figuring out which CLEP to take first, I made a video about the easiest CLEP exams where I break down which tests give you the best chance of passing with the least amount of stress. If marketing isn't your first choice, that video will help you find the right starting point. Click right here to watch that next, and I'll see you over there.